It's Monday. I'm Michelle Gassoub here in the CBC Vancouver newsroom, and I've got your top stories. Snow is falling on Highway 97 and throughout most of the Caribou this morning, and Environment Canada is warning people to be prepared for it. Up to 15 centimeters of snow is expected to accumulate in Williams Lake, 100 Mile House, and on Highway 97 before the snow tapers off tonight. Meanwhile, a special weather statement is up for the Prince George area with a mix of precipitation expected, including the chance of freezing rain. A candlelight memorial was held at the Vancouver Art Gallery last night to honor the 151 people who died in a high-rise fire in Hong Kong last week. Many in Vancouver have strong ties to Hong Kong. They said many questions remain and the calls for accountability are growing stronger. They say coming together as a community helps.
A lot of Hong Kongers in Vancouver, and we're seeing a need for us to get together to hold space to remember them.
I think a lot of us are in shock, and we feel a sense of paralysis because it feels so close to home, but at the same time it feels so far away.
A number of people have been arrested in connection with the fire. Officials say they are investigating possible corruption and the use of unsafe material during building renovations. The death toll is expected to grow. 104 people are still unaccounted for. As the Surrey Police Service marks its first anniversary, one mayoral candidate is promising to add 300 more officers to the force over the next 4 years. Surrey First Councillor Linda Annis says Surrey will be the first city in BC to reach 1 million residents and should be planning future policing needs accordingly.
The extortion crimes here in Surrey and other communities just reinforce on how important it is to feel safe in your neighborhood and in your community. Being afraid is no way to lead your life, and that applies to both families and businesses.
Municipal elections across the province are scheduled for October of next year. The Surrey Police Service currently has more than 1,000 employees and has responded to more than 100,000 calls in the first year of its operation. The city of Chilliwack turned to a community-driven event to keep waste out of the landfill. Its first annual community-wide swap took place this weekend.
Our landfill has a limited amount of airspace, as all landfills do, and it's just really important that it be used for things that can't be reused or repurposed. And keeping things in circulation, it also reduces resources to produce new items.
She says the event was inspired by similar initiatives in Vancouver. For every accepted item, visitors received a swap ticket to select their new find, eventually allowing staff to track how many items are being diverted from the landfill. The regional district says almost 2/3 of the garbage currently sent to landfills in the area could be recycled or composted. And it was a big weekend for the Vancouver Whitecaps. The team beat San Diego FC 3-1, punching their first ever trip to the MLS Cup final.
It's this group, the best collective they've had, that advances to MLS Cup for the first time in its 15-year history.
Fans packed BC Place for a watch party as the Caps made club history as the team's first Western Conference final. The Whitecaps will face Inter Miami in Florida on Saturday. And that's it for now. I'm Michelle Gassoub. Stay here. BC Today is coming up next.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. Whitecaps fever is here as the team heads to the final for the first time ever. We're asking, what does this run mean to you, either as a soccer player or as a parent? And do you want to see all of Canada rally behind the Vancouver Whitecaps? After 12:30, Chris Hadfield will be my guest. I'll talk to the retired astronaut about the role kindness has played in his life. Plus, speaking of sports and kindness, we'll take you to Abbotsford, where a local program offers free classes for kids. I'm Michelle Elliott. Welcome to BC Today. Thanks for joining us on CBC Radio, CBC Television, also on YouTube, CBC Gem, and on TikTok. It was another big weekend for the Vancouver Whitecaps. Last Saturday, the team made its first ever trip to a Western Conference final, facing San Diego FC and winning 3-1.
It's this group, the best collective they've had, that advances to MLS Cup for the first time in its 15-year history.
Certainly a high-stakes game and one on the road, but fans packed BC Plays for a watch party. And this coming Saturday, the Whitecaps will face Inter Miami in Florida, making it to the final for the first time in team history. Now, according to Canada Soccer, soccer has the most participation in the country and is considered the fastest growing sport. So we want to hear from you. Are you watching the Vancouver Whitecaps right now? Were you at the weekend's watch party or at last weekend's sold-out game at BC Place? What does this run mean to you or your child? And do you think the rest of Canada should rally behind the team now? Call us now. Just hit pound 690 on your cell phone, or you can dial 1-800-825-5950 or 604-669-3733. That's 604-669-3733. You can also email bctoday@cbc.ca or leave a comment if you're joining us on TikTok. Joining me now is Peter Schaad. He's a former Whitecaps play-by-play announcer and currently hosts his own soccer podcast, also a staff coach for South Delta United. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me on, Michelle. I love talking soccer and I love talking about the Whitecaps in December.
Yes, well, yes, I'm so glad you do, because now's the time for sure. I was thinking about the expectations for the Whitecaps, which were not very high at the start of the regular season. Are you surprised at how far they've come?
I am genuinely surprised, and it took a lot of bravery and time to build this team the way it is now. Bravery to hire a guy named Jesper Sorensen that nobody had ever heard of, and I'm sure there were probably bigger names on that interview list, but obviously something in him triggered Axel Schuster to hire the Dane, and it has been absolutely sensational, remarkable. I can't even think of as many superlatives to talk about the job he's done. He is, without question, the MLS Coach of the Year, even though he didn't get it. And the way they play is one thing, but now the results are coming as well. So yes, I am surprised. But as it started happening, like once we got into June and July, it was clear there was something special about this group.
What was it? What was it that made the difference?
I think there's a blend of youth, excellent character, and this, of all the things that the Whitecaps have done correctly in recruitment, which is the difference maker in this league, because it's a salary cap league. They want parity amongst teams. It's the type of human being you bring into your locker room environment. And they already had a good group. And then they decided to go out and get maybe one of the most interesting characters with one of the most unique player profiles on the planet to say, this guy has won big shiny trophies. He is the final ingredient in this recipe, and that turned out to be a masterstroke as well.
Well, it was such huge news when they did acquire a German superstar, Thomas Müller. Also, psychologically thinking about, he was commenting about pressure and performance under pressure and saying this is what fuels him, what fires him up. And you can see him kind of being the mentor to other players there. What difference is he making as a leader?
Oh, every amount of difference. And you imagine if you're a young guy, say you're a Sebastian Berhalter, and you're sitting in that locker room and you look to your right and there is a World Cup winner, a Champions League winner, a multiple serial Bundesliga winner, who is also funny, but intense, clever, is like a coach on the field. And he's almost a little bit unpredictable in how he plays because that's kind of been his tag. He's the space finder. But to have somebody like that fighting for you and with you, I can only imagine what it must be like for those guys. And then, you know, the stuff he's done off the field as well just goes to show how committed he is to the cause, because he's been an absolute revelation in terms of the social media presence, selling gear, being an ambassador for the club and for the city. Like, you could not have hit a better home run than the Whitecaps hit with Thomas Muller. And hopefully this team stays together and they get another run at it no matter what happens on Saturday, because, of course, his big contract now kicks in. It is a signing that I would say is probably one of the best in MLS history, because you sometimes have to curate that star signing. People in the city have been asking for a star signing for quite some time, but, you know, to get the right person, and I would say Sonny in LA is another great curated signing, given that, you know, LA has the largest Korean population outside of Korea, and he too is a consummate professional who has delivered up until last week or the weekend before last. So, you know, these kinds of players are transformational players. You get the wrong guy in and it can go completely the other way.
Let me ask you about the weekend before last. It just showed the momentum that we have among fans as well. My son was at that game, sold out at BC Place. And when you think of 54,000 seats, all filled. And he just said at the end of it, once he got to the penalty kick, like, the crowd just went wild. And this is, you know, not a longtime fan at all. You know, what's it like for you to watch their popularity grow?
I'm unsurprised by the popularity. This city has always supported the game, back to the original Whitecaps, even before then. And then in that dead period when the 86ers were born, and then the resurrection of the Whitecaps. For whatever reason, and I think a lot of it had to do with, you know, post-war European immigration to this city. I mean, when I grew up playing soccer, all my coaches were either English, Scottish, German, Italian, and that was a really good thing because it brought the love for the game to our shores. And so there's always been a sophistication amongst soccer fans in this city. So I'm not surprised. The name carries weight. I was switched on to soccer because of the 1979 Soccer Bowl. That's how I started falling in love with the game and the Whitecaps, and why I became, you know, absolutely obsessed with the sport. So that's just me. And so there's kids now who are going through this experience, like you mentioned, your son at BC Place. Well, that is also, you know, a transformative experience. A lot of people complain about BC Place all the time. I'm like, if there's 54,000 people in there and they're loud, there is no stadium like it. There's no stadium in MLS really like it. I mean, Atlanta notwithstanding, there's a couple of big sort of multi-purpose stadiums. But when BC Place is full and rocking like it was a couple of weekends ago, you know, it's spine-tingling stuff.
Absolutely. And it spilled onto the streets after all the exuberance and jubilation. I know my son was the one reminding us on Saturday too, the Whitecaps are playing tonight. So there you go. Peter Schaad is with me. He's a former Whitecaps play-by-play announcer, now a staff coach for South Delta United, and also hosts his own soccer podcast because, as you heard him say, he loves talking about soccer and about the Whitecaps. Asking you what you make of this incredibly successful run, the Vancouver Whitecaps making it for the first time in team history to the final. That is coming up this Saturday. What does this run mean to you? If you're a soccer player, if you have a child who plays soccer, as so many parents do, we'd love to hear from you. And what do you think? Should the rest of Canada rally behind this team? You can give us a call, 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. And that, again, 604-669-3733. You can just hit pound 690 on your cell phone as well, or email bctoday@cbc.ca. And we are watching your comments on TikTok. Randy is calling us in Vancouver. Hi, Randy. What are you feeling as you watch this run?
Hi, Michelle. Thanks for taking my call. We're much more fans after our daughter a month ago met, by coincidence, Thomas Muller and Ryan Gold in public. And on separate occasions, they were such class acts. I've met professional athletes over my many years, but these two guys showed a lot of class, took a lot of time, took pictures, spoke to my daughter about her soccer. She plays at a pretty high level of youth soccer.
Wow.
And it was just the biggest impression on her. And I think that's one reason, the parents are bucking up and filling the stands for the Whitecaps. and I hope all the Whitecaps organization is listening and all the players, because as good as a player you can be, you have to be a community class act when you're out in public.
Yeah,
and
sure.
these guys, it sort of goes to their character, which is, I think, one reason they're top players, is because they understand that.
Wow, it's about the outreach as well. Tell us about your daughter. What got her into soccer, and where she's playing now?
My daughter plays in Vancouver, for Vancouver United. She likes soccer because it's a team sport. She learns discipline. She learns and loves playing with the other kids. She learns a lot of patience. She's quite skilled. She trains hard. She sort of learns how, I think all kids learn, the more you put into it in training, the more you're going to get out of it, whether it's your skill development, your team winning, which I think are secondary, but you really develop as, a youth. And she does well in school, I think, because of that. But yeah, she loves it. And I love, if your kid can go out the door smiling in the pouring rain and cold and come back from training smiling, which I don't, then as a parent, you've won, because that kid is having fun and they're developing. Parents, and there are too many in youth soccer especially, are far too, my kid is going to be professional, or my kid, push, and living vicariously through their kids. And I think, looking at the Whitecaps and the Stars and how they're class acts, yes, it's professional soccer, but that's how, kids need a role model. And I'm glad the Whitecaps are going as far as they can do.
Randy, so great to speak to you. Thank you very much for the call in Vancouver. Randy talking about his 15-year-old daughter who plays as well. Wow. Our numbers again, 604-669-3733, 1-800-825-5950. Our email too is bctoday@cbc.ca. Elizabeth writes, I think it is fantastic. It's such a positive thing to focus on when there is plenty of negative fighting for our attention. I love that both the Blue Jays and the Whitecaps are renowned for the team spirit and the depth of character that is on display for both teams. Very Canadian, very good role models. Loving it all. Elizabeth, thank you for the email, bctoday@cbc.ca. And let me go back to my guest, Peter Schaad. You see this from all sides, right? Having been the play-by-play announcer, now coaching, doing the podcast as well. What do you think is behind that growth in participation in soccer in Canada?
Well, there is an undeniable connection and correlation between how the local professional team does and then registration in that immediate area. And I worked with BC Soccer, which was the provincial federation, and we know there was a connection between the Whitecaps being successful, even when the 86ers were successful, and a spike in participation. And I would not be surprised if we saw a spike in participation for next year's fall season and maybe even in the spring, because of this kind of excitement and run and the accessibility that, soccer has. Randy mentioned it there. That's one of the things that I like about Thomas Muller, is his accessibility and the fact that he is willing to engage with strangers that come up to him and obviously recognize him. And the other day when I was coaching on Thursday, I show up and there's about a 9-year-old who said with his friend, he said, I'm going to be Yohei Takaoka and you be Sonny and you're going to try to score that free kick on me. And I said, this is... Yeah, I said, that's exactly what I was doing as a kid. I was playing freely. It wasn't even structured, commentating, imagining, dreaming of what it would be like to be in those kinds of situations. And those are the kinds of things that we need in soccer right now, because there's lots of participation, as you mentioned. What is missing is that cultural nuance that's intrinsic to the sport. It's very different from other sports. And so when I see kids doing things like that, I get excited because I know that they are engaged and they're impacted by what's happening in this local scene.
Yeah, I was just thinking about the Takaoka saves in the last game too. Incredible as well. Let's get to Kevin, who's joining us from Kitimat. Speaking about access to the sport, but Kevin wants to talk about access to actually being able to watch Whitecaps games. Hi, Kevin. Welcome.
Hey, good afternoon. Thanks for taking my call. Also,
Sure. Yes.
I love listening to your programs. Yeah, I'm just ecstatic about the Whitecaps making the MLS final. So happy that they finally signed someone like Thomas Muller. It's long overdue. I'm a lifelong fan. I'm long in the tooth, and a big fan of Beardsley, Valentine, all those guys back in the day. But yeah, very, very happy for the team and for BC. And I'm just disappointed in a way that we had to miss a lot of the playoff games because it was on Apple TV and it wasn't on the major networks that I thought they'd be on. But I just found out recently that the game might be on TSN. I'm hoping it is. But yeah, I'm just happy about it, and I was just disappointed we weren't able to watch some of the games.
Yeah, sure. You want to be able to watch it. Kevin, thank you very much for the call, and thanks for pulling over to give us a call in Kitimat. All the best to you. Yes, so what's that like for fans then, Peter?
Yeah, and it's funny because I was talking about this. We were at my buddy Steve watching the game the other day. He has the Apple package, and I actually subscribe to the MLS package, but they changed it with Apple TV that it's now free to watch the playoffs with their regular package, and I know there's been some changes with the Apple. And we were commenting on how on the local sort of community Facebook groups, people are posting and saying, who is showing the Whitecaps game?
Right.
What establishment that's licensed is showing this game so we can go watch? And that has been an interesting dynamic as well, and it's been difficult for some fans to have the access. And I do believe that it will be shown on regular television, the MLS Cup final on Saturday. But yeah, that's something that MLS has had to grapple with too, because on one hand, you know, they get this incredible $2 billion deal with Apple over the term of the contract. But are they getting casual people dropping in like they used to do? I mean, I remember when I was doing the games on TSN and on television, we would get some of those numbers. And like a game in Colorado that was delayed by lightning was pulling in 250,000 people. I was shocked by that. And you're not getting that when you don't have that terrestrial television audience.
Mike actually also wrote us from White Rock saying, what about television coverage for the final? Apple TV doesn't work for many. Let's get it on TSN or Sportsnet. So again, getting it on major TV networks. Let me ask you finally, I'm glad that we had that email mentioning the Blue Jays, because I certainly got on the bandwagon. I was there during that last game and just, I don't know, I was despondent on my couch. But we saw Canada just root for the Blue Jays. Do you want to see that in this case? Other provinces, other parts of the country getting on board behind the Whitecaps?
If the game is on regular television, there is no question that people will pop by it and see what's going on. And I think the Whitecaps will get a lot of love, given that they're kind of the lovable underdogs from the village of Vancouver, as they were in '79 when they were taking on the much vaunted Cosmos. There's a lot of parallels between what's happening now with what happened in '79, you know, star players, the big global team, which Inter Miami is with Messi and Suarez and now Rodrigo de Paul. So there will be people that casually tune in and say, well, I'm going to go for the Canadian team because they're the lovable Canadian underdogs. Culturally in football, though, if I'm a TFC fan in Toronto, I would absolutely not want the Whitecaps to be the most recent Canadian team to win it. If I was in Seattle or Portland, I absolutely would not want the Whitecaps to be the latest MLS Cup winner from Cascadia. And that's the tribal nature of the sport in the international side of things. But it is a little bit different here in North America because it hasn't been often. I mean, TFC had the great years in 16, 17, 18, and around that time. And yeah, a lot of Canada got on board because obviously they'd rather see, you know, that team win than an American opponent. But, you know, it is kind of funny because when I talk to my friends in the UK, you know, that would just never, ever happen where other fan bases would hop on the bandwagon hoping that a rival club would want to win the big trophy.
It's so much of an identifier. Yeah. Peter, what a pleasure to speak with you. Thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure being on. Thanks for having me, Michelle.
Peter Schaad, former Whitecaps play-by-play announcer and currently hosts his own soccer podcast, also staff coach for South Delta United. It is 12:26 now. This is BC Today. In other news, we have been covering the Energy Memorandum of Understanding that was inked by Prime Minister Mark Carney and Alberta Premier Danielle Smith. Last Friday, Amy Bell took your calls asking, how do you feel about Mark Carney's leadership and what would you like to see next for BC? Jeremy writes, I wish the Prime Minister would think about investing in Canadians instead of accelerating the rate of exporting raw natural resources. Canada is more than just a repository of minerals, fish, timber, and oil. Investing in Canada means investing in Canadians, adding value to our resources, innovation, and entrepreneurship, and most importantly, education. It's time Canada took itself seriously and invested in state-funded post-secondary education and training. Marianne writes from Terrace, what does the national interest mean? Killing more of our marine life with the prospect of LNG Canada tankers? Do we let our children face a future of 2.3 degree temperature increase because we have no realistic climate goals? Do we continue to look like fossil fools at the UN COP? However, Patty writes that focusing on the proposed pipeline is too narrow. There's nothing worse than picking up on one line in an announcement, a pipeline, and no attention to carbon capture technology to make it the lowest carbon product in the world. And all the other aspects in the announcement, minerals, mining, electrical grid expansion, and building AI data centers. So let's look at everything. Finally, Gabriel writes, though I'm opposed to the pipeline, I think it's a brilliant political move by the Prime Minister. In one fell swoop, he reconciled Alberta with the Liberals, and he diffused the grumpy Alberta hard right by agreeing to a pipeline that will never be built, while extracting some concessions from Danielle Smith and allowing her to move toward the wind and solar she had objected to before. Thank you for your emails, bctoday@cbc.ca. A large number of fellow citizens find themselves at food banks because of an unexpected change in their finances. Often it's temporary, but knowing the food bank is there is a relief. As we approach our annual Make the Season Kind Day this Friday, we're sharing personal stories.
My name is Robert, and the circumstance that brings me here to the food bank is just going through some financial hard time right now. I have a full-time job. I'm just kind of going through financial difficulties at the moment where I need the help of a food bank to take me through this hard time. I work as a care aide. I help people at work, to care for them. Kindness is necessary, no matter what level of society we live in, whether you're rich, poor, and middle class, anything like that. We all need kindness of some kind, generosity of others to survive. So the food bank is just one level of kindness and generosity in our society that people of all kinds of classes can rely on. So thank you. Thanks to everybody who contributed to the food bank, both financially and through the just giving of the food. We appreciate it. But I know I'll get on the other side of it, and I won't be needing the service of the food bank anymore.
Robert, thank you very much. This Friday, December the 5th, is the day we set aside to help raise money for people who find themselves needing to be at a food bank in this province. You don't have to wait until then, though, to make a donation. You can go to cbc.ca/kindbc and click on the red Donate Now button. There, that drop-down menu will show you all 111 food banks in BC. And when you make your donation, you'll receive a tax receipt within hours. Again, that's cbc.ca/kindbc. And you can also learn all about our special programming we have planned for you on Friday. I'll host a special 3-hour show starting at noon with Margaret Gallagher, host of North by Northwest. Right now it is 12:30. You're with BC Today. I'm Michelle Elliott. Thanks so much for being with us. Coming up in our next half hour, yes, I'll speak with retired astronaut Chris Hadfield, and he'll tell us about the role that kindness has played in his life. That's coming up after the CBC News Update with Taranjeet Parmar.
Good afternoon. A BC woman and 3 Italians were injured after they were attacked by Israeli settlers on the weekend in the Israeli-occupied West Bank. She says she and the others were thrown to the ground and beaten before some of their wallets and passports were stolen. CBC News has agreed to conceal her identity as she fears she could be targeted again or deported if she's identified. This attack comes amid a significant surge in settler violence in the West Bank. Food Banks BC says it's seeing an unprecedented demand. The organization's latest hunger report says more than 1.4 million British Columbians are experiencing food insecurity, and more than 10% of food banks are forced to turn people away. They say food banks are no longer a temporary supplement for an increasing number of people and are becoming a necessity. And online shoppers are being told to beware this Cyber Monday. Vancouver police say they're seeing an increase in cyber fraud cases. That includes cloned shopping sites, fake delivery notices, and marketplace scams. Police are advising people not to answer any unsolicited phone calls that they might get and not to fall for any of the high-pressure sales tactics. Those are your headlines from the CBC Vancouver newsroom. For more information, you can go to the website anytime, cbc.ca/BC.
Taranjeet, thank you very much. That's Taranjeet Parmar in the CBC Vancouver newsroom. A couple of emails on the Vancouver Whitecaps. Rabaz writes, I love soccer, and my favorite player is Lionel Messi. But for this game, absolutely, I'm going to support the Vancouver Whitecaps. I wish them to make history in the next game. Thank you for that. And Gary writes, first, congrats to the team. I've seen 3 games this season with every result possible, a win, a draw, and a loss. All entertaining. I tuned in to the San Diego win online, listening to San Diego 690. The announcers were neutral, mostly. Soccer is a unifying game in society. My only complaint is that ticketing is unfortunately victim to the resale market for the last few rounds and the final. We need legislation to change this. And that's from Gary in Vancouver. Thank you very much for your email to Gary. And last Friday, we asked for your holiday baking emails, and Patricia wrote us from Kelowna, writing, Christmas baking has lessened over the years as we are a smaller family and largely plant-based, but one that I always make is Austrian vanilla Kipferl, which is a word for crescent, essentially an almond shortbread. The ingredients are ground almonds, sugar, flour, vanilla flavoring, and then you make them and form them into little crescents and bake them. The key is to roll them very gently in a mixture of icing sugar and vanilla sugar when they first come out of the oven. It forms a lovely coating. They are quite delightful. Thank you for your recipe. I love that, Patricia. BC Today at cbc.ca is where you can reach us with anything you want to mention on the show. It's 12:34 now. You're with BC Today. Thanks for joining us. Well, this Friday, December 5th, is our annual Make the Season Kind campaign. It is CBC BC's full day of programming and events to support fundraising for food banks in the province. I'll be hosting a special 3-hour show starting at noon with North by Northwest host Margaret Gallagher. And we'll have for you live music and special guests as well, including great Canadian baking shows Bruno Feldeisen and the winner this year, Joe Mande. All of this is to inspire you to give and to be kind to those in need. Again, that's coming up this Friday, and you can donate anytime again at cbc.ca/kindbc. Well, as we gear up for Friday, we are speaking to notable Canadians about the importance of kindness. And someone who has an out-of-this-world view perspective is Chris Hadfield. The retired Canadian astronaut served as commander of the International Space Station. And he is also now an author. His 2013 autobiography, An Astronaut's Guide to Life on Earth, was a bestseller. His new book is a thriller titled Final Orbit. I spoke with Chris Hadfield earlier about the role that kindness has played in his life. A treat to speak to you today. What does this time of year mean to you?
I look forward to snow and winter and the excitement that it brings. It's impossible at the rest of the year, but also the culture that I was raised with of the importance of Christmas. That also, for me, it's the most significant family holiday of the year, and a chance to get together and reflect and think as it leads you into the turn of the calendar and the new year. So there's also just a great feeling of shared reflection on the year that's gone by, the thousands of years that we've been celebrating this time of year, and the burgeoning new year to start the one more lap around the sun again. So yeah, to me, it's a very lovely time of year.
You know, Chris, we of course know you as a retired astronaut, an engineer, a musician, of course, the memories of you playing up in space, and an author. You have a new book out now. But it's funny because I also see you as someone synonymous with kindness. And I almost don't know why, but that is my perception of you. What does kindness mean to you?
There's a popular thing that has grown in culture recently. When you meet someone that you know served in the military, and I think it started predominantly in the United States, but when you meet parents, I think, teach their children now. When you meet someone that is serving or has served in the military, you should thank them for their service. And to me, that's lovely. That is a recognition and a public expression of kindness. But I'm not certain that everybody knows what service means. Service is a waiter in a restaurant, or service is, putting gas in your car or something. For me, service is kindness. And my personal definition, when someone thanks me for my service of having been 25 years in the Royal Canadian Air Force, what I choose to hear is, thank you for being willing to have put my needs ahead of your own. Thank you for having volunteered to give the ultimate sacrifice of dying on behalf of me, whom you've never met. That's what service is. And the people that serve our society, so that everyone else can hopefully just lead their full, natural, healthy, fun lives. To me, it is the ultimate expression of kindness. I believe in this structure that we have created of society. I believe in the idea that is Canada. And it doesn't happen on its own. It happens because people are willing to serve. People are willing to put the needs of others ahead of their own. And I can't think of any greater expression of my own particular personal definition of kindness.
You've spent many, many days looking at Earth from outer space, and you've also used that experience to discuss how to live life here on Earth. You know, your autobiography is called An Astronaut's Guide to Life on Earth. What did you learn about kindness from your time viewing Earth from space?
There's a standard expression: if you want to go fast, go by yourself. If you want to go far, go with others. And going with others doesn't mean involuntarily or through coercion or without kindness. If you want to go far, if you want to do things of lasting significance, then it requires the ability to work harmoniously with people that have different objectives than you do, and do it for a long time. And that requires deliberate kindness. I wanted to mention one thing in our conversation today, Michelle. I was friends with Jane Goodall, who just passed not very long. I was with her back in April, and she lived a long, great life, and I'm very sad she's no longer with us. But one of the things that I think about a lot, what Jane discovered, when she sort of innocently went down to observe the primates in the jungle in Africa, specifically primarily chimpanzees. And she was hoping for sort of that, I don't know, Disney personified vision of the innocence of animals and the fact that humans can be so bad, but nature and animals are not. And what was quite shocking and sobering and worldview changing to her was that chimpanzees wage war, and chimpanzees commit murder deliberately, and chimpanzees commit genocide on purpose. And they're our closest animal, the closest relatives of all the other animals, genetically and obviously just in physical structure. And so we have to remember that, I think, in that is a big part of our fundamental nature, is that ability to give in to the worst of behaviors. And the only way that society can function and that people have a chance of living long, full, productive lives is if we can somehow surmount the worst of our fundamental nature. And you see that bad behavior in people all the time. It's there. You can't pretend it isn't. You can't just hope that someday it won't be. That is how we are wired and plumbed. We are partially like that. But at the same time, we built the Taj Mahal. We had people walk on the moon. We have written poetry and created artwork and built magnificent interpersonal societal structures that have fly in the face of our fairly brutal fundamental nature. And the real telling manifestation that allows us to overcome all of that, to me, is a recognition of the necessity for kindness. You can't just go with your gut. You have to recognize that if we want all of this to work, if we want the golden rule, to do unto others as you wish them to do unto you, to work, then you have to tap into your own kindness. And sometimes you'll be much more chimpanzee than Homo sapiens. But what we're all counting on, and what has managed to prevail for, what is it now, 10, 12,000 years of civilization, is our ability to find kindness collectively so that we can continue not just to exist, but to thrive.
I'm sorry for the loss of your friend Jane Goodall, and certainly a tremendous loss to the world. You said that if you can go fast by going by yourself, and it sounds like kindness takes a lot more intentionality. What are some ways that we can remind ourselves to slow down and actually, resist those instincts and work and focus on being kind?
It's so easy to get lost in the noise of day-to-day life, and to just feel overwhelmed by the demands. An analogy that I use with myself, I took from figure skaters. And that is, they work silently for years and years and years to gain the skills, completely unrecognized. But just imagine the amount of work that had go in to develop those refined set of human skills. But even still, the vast amount of what they have to do is in the compulsories. They have to be able to demonstrate to all of those, harsh, stone-faced judges that they can perform the compulsories. And so much of life is your compulsories. And at times you forget that there's anything else but the compulsories in your life. But the beauty of figure skating is also the freestyle. And that's where self-expression comes in. That's where the true magnificence of what one person can do on skates, or a pair of people can do on skates on the ice, is in the freestyle. And that doesn't diminish the absolute necessity for the compulsories. Otherwise, you'd never get to the ability to do the freestyle. And so in every single day, I pay attention to my compulsories, and they dominate my days, and they have to. But but I also pay huge attention to my freestyle. And in the freestyle is where the true joys of life are. And you can set aside time, maybe I'm going to meditate for a while today, or I'm going to take a little time for myself, or whatever. I try instead to steal it second by second all day long. Don't let that rising hubbub of noise and gorge and barometric pressure overwhelm your ability to notice this beautiful little thing that just happened, or the gorgeous alignment of the sun as its rays just broke through just a moment ago, or the 10 minutes that you got to spend with a person that was an unexpected joy in your day. And those take perspective to notice that they're happening, but I think they also take a kindness to yourself. If you allow the compulsories of your life to overwhelm, you're being tremendously unkind within your own person. And self-kindness, I think, is an absolutely necessary underpinning before you're ever going to have the energy or the perspective to practice kindness with others.
Chris, is there someone who stands out for you who has shown you either the most memorable example of kindness or the most kindness?
Someone you've never met, my mother. My father was a strict authoritarian raised by his grandparents who were Victorian, like they'd born in the 1880s in England. So my dad came from a couple generations back, and he ran things very strictly, and raised very patriarchal kind of household, and that was his worldview, for better or for worse. That's what it was. And running a farm with 5 children, that required a certain type of partner in life, a certain type of spouse. And my mom recognized my dad's weaknesses, but she also recognized his strengths. And she recognized that together they were far bigger than either of them were individually. And it sometimes forced her to say and do things that she never would have done, if she'd been living life alone. But it also gave her huge opportunity to do things she never would have had the opportunity to do. And so she led a life of kindness. And we needed that example as the kids growing up in that household. It was so rare for her to raise her voice, and so inconceivable for her to have an unkind word towards anyone. And she worked very hard to recognize the frailty of people and the limited nature of each of us, and to always seek out the goodness that exists in each of us. And I think her personal example of kindness and patience that comes with true kindness, and seeing the beauty that also comes with it, I think it was hugely fundamental in my worldview.
She sounds remarkable. Chris, here's to finding the freestyle among the compulsory. Thank you so much for this conversation.
Thank you, Michelle. Lovely to speak with you.
That is retired astronaut Chris Hadfield. His latest novel is called Final Orbit. Tomorrow on the show, to talk about kindness, my guest will be children's entertainer and musician Fred Penner. Yes, he has entertained and educated generations of children, and he'll talk to us tomorrow about the pursuit of kindness in the world right now. Fred Penner, tomorrow on the program. Right now, it is 12:49, and here to tell us more about kindness and how it's playing out for young kids in Abbotsford is the CBC's Kier Junos. Kier is our new CBC reporter, bringing us reporting from Abbotsford at CBC's Fraser Valley Bureau. And today, Kier joins us from the Abbotsford Judo Club, which offers free judo classes for young newcomers to Canada, children 5 to 14 years old. I do see that Kier himself is decked out in the judo gi, the uniform, so I'm a little worried about what's about to come. But anyway, here's Kier. Hello to you. Thanks for being with us.
Michelle, how you doing?
I'm well. So great to have you on the show. You're one of our new reporters. joining us to expand local coverage here in BC. Tell us about yourself and your connection to Abbotsford.
Well, yeah, I grew up here in Abbotsford. I went to school. My parents went to school down Town Line Road, and my parents aren't far from the judo club here now. I've been, I kind of grew up as a musician, playing bands for a long time. Started as a music blogger, wrote for some of the local papers out here, and now it's nice to kind of come full circle and be, tell stories out here in Abbotsford again.
Did you grow up doing judo yourself?
Oh, no, I didn't. I certainly gave it a couple of tries. I remember a certain brown and black belt night where I was utterly destroyed. But here I am again, hoping I survive the little demo I'm going to show you a little later.
Yes. Okay, let's give it a whirl. What brought you to this story about the Abbotsford Judo Club?
Well, at CBC we're doing this whole make a season kind thing, right? And I was kind of thinking about in Abbotsford, well, what kind of, what are people doing out here that sort of exudes that virtue of kindness? And then so I connected with my old friend here, Coach Layton Keely. He's the head instructor here at the Abbotsford Judo Club, and he told me about what was happening here at the Judo Club. It's a program called Judo for All, and that essentially gives newcomers to Canada the opportunity to see some low barrier classes for judo. Layton, can you tell me what this program's all about?
Sure. This program, we're able to offer free classes to families that are new to Canada. A lot of people come from different countries for various reasons. They leave behind their families, their friends, and we're able to offer them organized sport at a very low, zero cost to their children. So it's a pretty cool program. It's made possible by Judo Canada, the federal government, and Sport Canada.
Right. So where are most of these students from? Where do they come from around the world?
We have a few from various countries, but the majority of them right now are from the Ukraine. They're from the Ukraine.
And that must be tough, right? Obviously, these families must have left because of the ongoing war there,
yes.
right?
Yes, and we see it on the mats here with the kids. They come and they're shy, they're learning the language, their families are struggling with what they've left behind. But as they stay longer and become part of the community, we really see these kids grow up and work through that. And I don't think it's something that they'll fully forget, but at least we're able to offer them something good while they're here, or if they plan to stay here, and I'm really happy to be able to offer that to them.
Totally. And I'm thinking, you got a black belt here now, right? And you've been doing judo for a long time. You're the head instructor here at the Judo Club. I mean, take us back to when you were a kid doing judo, growing up. What did it bring to you, right? And how do you see that being passed down to your students now?
Well, I started when I was a kid, a small kid. My sensei, the club's founder, is Tokue Suda. He instructed me from when I was little all the way till I was a national competitor competing around Canada. And as I retired, I moved into a coaching position, and he mentored me through that. Through all of that, I think that I was taught respect. In judo, it's about taking care of your partner. You can't do judo without someone else. So although it's a fighting sport, we always begin and end with a bow, and there's a lot of respect. Regardless of the outcome of the match, we always bow, we always shake hands, and we're friends. And that's what judo is. It's not just fighting, it's a way of life where everyone respects and protects each other.
Right. Well, yeah, Layton, that's really great. And Michelle, I didn't come here to the Judo Club to wear the gi for no reason. In the spirit of judo for all, Layton's going to do a little judo for me, and I want to show you what I've been able to learn. Layton, what are we going to go through right now?
All right.
Will I survive it?
You'll survive. Will I survive? I don't know. We'll see. Okay, so first in judo, we start with a bow. Good. Okay. And then you're going to put your left hand on my collar.
Okay. What move are we doing here?
We're going to do ippon seanagi. It's a shoulder throw.
Gotcha.
Okay. So I'm going to do the same, and you're going to grab onto my sleeve with your right hand, and I'm going to do the same. Okay. So my feet are apart. Right. You're going to let go and put your bicep into my armpit, and your feet are going to be in between my feet.
And then I throw.
Bend your knees.
Okay.
And lift, and then when you're ready, you can turn your shoulders and your head that way.
Okay.
All right.
Ready?
Yep. Nice.
That
was good.
All right.
Yeah. That was good.
Okay, maybe I might be able to hold up when there's another brown belt and black belt night here again. Michelle, that's a little bit of judo for you, judo for me, judo for all here, reporting live here at the Abbotsford Judo Club with Layton Keely.
Kier, well done. Well done. And I don't know if Coach was extra kind to you, hence your success there. But very, very well done. That looked great, like you'd been doing it for years. Way to go.
Oh, thanks. You know, I have a great instructor here, so that helps a lot.
Do you think you'll pursue it some more?
Well, will we be hearing from students some more? Did you say yes? Well, you know, we'll have a little segment later tonight on CBC News about because I was here last week and we kind of got to observe some of the kids going through the Judo for All class. So
great.
Certainly you're going to see more sights and sounds of the kids even throwing Layton. You know what I mean? So that's going to be pretty cool.
And
check
Kier,
that out for sure.
What about you? Do you think you'll keep pursuing judo?
Well, you know, I think tennis is more of my sport. That's what I'm saying. But, you know, in the spirit of trying new things, I mean, this was pretty cool. You know, I felt kind of powerful doing that. You know what I mean?
Natural.
And I feel bonded to Layton.
Well, I'm sure watching more of the kids will inspire you to keep going. Kier, well done. Thank you so much.
I think so. Okay, take care, Michelle.
That's the CBC's Kier Junos. Again, one of our new reporters, he's reporting from the Fraser Valley Bureau from Abbotsford, and he joined us live from the Abbotsford Judo Club. And of course, we're talking about the theme of kindness, and this was a program that offers free judo classes for newcomer kids aged 5 to 14. And so all of this in support of the theme of kindness as we make our way through to our Make the Season Kind campaign on Friday. Some more emails now on the theme of kindness. Gail writes us, a family member had the recent experience of utilizing our medical system. He found the urgent care staff at the Jubilee Hospital, including paramedics, nurses, technicians, and the doctor, to be very kind and caring and reassuring. Very good to hear that. Thank you. And Lonnie writes as well, actually from south of the border, happy first day of December from across the border in the Pacific Northwest, literally looking out my window at Saturna Island in BC. Kindness is humanity and empathy and understanding and love. Thank you so much for your email as well from the United States. I'm Michelle Elliott. Thanks for joining us here on BC Today.